Welcome back to the Shadow Darkness podcast. We're grateful to have you here today. Thank you, listeners and subscribers. This is episode 63. After a couple go back and forth, this is 100% episode 63.
It is 63.
We're going to hop in a couple of housekeeping items before we get rolling with our guest today. The first thing I want to bring attention to is we lost a good one a couple of weeks back. A good friend of mine who got me actually into the roofing business. He's a guy that I knew from high school, a good man, passed away, and we lost a really good guy, and I think he's got a similar background to what we're doing here today. And there's a GoFundMe that I want to plug. That'll be a link in this podcast. I think the GoFundMe is to help with the funeral and help his family, but there's always that what comes next. And if you guys are seeing this, I'm begging you to give what you can. He's got some daughters and a fiance that that are still here and need all the support that we can get. So this gentleman by the name of Justin Dunn was a good man, lit up every room that he walked in. He reached out of nowhere in the last couple months. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and he reached out of nowhere, and we caught up. And he actually left me one of the first Google reviews when we started our company, and now he's gone. So take some time if you could, just think about the family that's left behind and give to the GoFundMe. Even if they've hit their quota, please give above and beyond. But with that being said, let's hop in.
I want to, real quick though, I want to say, because this is what Shattered Darkness was started on, right? This is what we founded this thing on. I personally lost a friend, same situation, right? And that's what ignited this whole idea, the inspiration, all of it. So this is important. This is boots on the ground kind of stuff that we really need to slow down and take time. And if this is a space that's important to you, even if you don't know these people, which most of us don't, reach out because it means a lot. I just wanted to say that. Right now we are filming this at the Love Shack Mocktail Bar in downtown Lovewood. We always want to give them a shout out because Han has obviously allowed us to be in this space. It's allowed our creative opportunities to go through the roof. So the Love Shack Mocktail Bar, 120 East 4th Street. Make sure you come down and check it out and have a drink or two. So,
yeah. So let's hop in. Today with us we have Nathan Scott. We're grateful. Thank you for coming here, Nathan.
It's a pleasure.
So Nathan's he's a community servant. He's a business owner. He's an auctioneer. He's got his hand and his toes in a lot of different things. Above all that, Nathan's a father and a husband, a full-time, overtime husband, as you should be.
How old are your daughters?
Well, I have one son.
One son. I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you said they're girls.
No, just one son. No problem.
How old is your son?
26.
26.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, so I met Nathan at a weird networking event that I didn't know I knew you, and I saw you again today. I'm like, hey, same guy.
Same guy.
Man, thanks for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
When we hop in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What are you doing, man?
Well, first off, it's good to be here at the Game of Thrones reunion. I'm really happy about that.
Enter at your own risk.
I only seen one episode of the Shattered Darkness podcast, specifically with Duke Rumley, a good friend of mine. And once I spoke with Duke and I learned about what the mission and the goals that you guys have, I just really wanted to come and tell a little bit about my story and my journey that brought me through a lot of things to get to where I am. And that includes time spent in the military, 2 tours in the AmeriCorps, a year spent with a nonprofit musical traveling all across the United States for 6 months, and then 6 months across Europe. Then, taking on education and undergrad and then grad school, and all the reasons and ways in which to give back is really what I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And so that journey has brought through a lot of difficulties with everything from, mental health issues with family and friends to addiction and mental health and losing people and all the things that really matter. 2 things that really matter to me most are mental health for veterans and substance abuse and suicide prevention for veterans and specifically men. Because again, it is a huge problem. And I think that, when we shine light on things like struggle, it does allow other people to be able to maybe share their story as well. So that's my goal here today, is to help people to maybe hear a little bit about my story and say, maybe I, would like to share more about my own.
Yeah. So where are you from? Give us a little bit on your background, little
Sure.
family
Yeah,
information.
no problem. Born in the Midwest, born at the University Hospital, University of Iowa, as the story goes. My parents didn't have any money, and so there was a University of Iowa hospital, which was about an hour away. And the way that the story was told to me was they would deliver your baby for free if you could get to the university hospital. And so that's what happened. So my dad ran to a payphone and called his closest buddy in a 1968 Camaro, picked up my mom and drove the hour to the university hospital.
The beginning of your life is like Ricky Bobby.
As the story goes, it was raining because it was October the 9th. It was raining and there was 4 bald tires on the Camaro. When they got into the emergency room to deliver the baby, a nurse had told my dad that the doctor had never delivered a baby before. And so
No wonder it's free.
Yes. Up until then, he'd only been delivering animals, I guess, apparently. So it was the first baby that he delivered. But upon hearing this, my dad grabbed him by the throat and put him up against the wall and said, listen, if anything happens to my wife, I'm going to kill you. So he set him back down. And then the doctor, with shaky hands, delivered the baby. That was me.
I mean, obviously it went well. You're here, right?
I totally made it, you know, and the coupon worked. So for him. That's how I came into the world.
Sure.
And so by that, it was a journey by which my mom was only 17, my dad was barely 19. Oh, man. And so their journey was right into the fire, you know, real fast. So growing up and, you know, in a household that was, you know, very much so, very tough growing up, that my parents divorced not that long after. And my stepdad showed up in my life at 2 years old. And he basically raised me from that point on. And that during that whole time until I was probably about 16, my dad was in and out of jail and prison and all kinds of things that were in his journey to get sober. And so my stepdad really did raise me till I was 18. And when I was 18, I you know, with the situation being what it was, I knew I needed to get out. And so I wanted to get as far away from that whole dysfunction as I could. And that's why I joined the Navy and left it just after 18. And joined it and spent 4 years in the Navy, which I loved. Oh. And
what year was that when you joined?
Oh man, it was in '91. So it was right at the end of Desert Storm 2.
Okay.
And so, you know, combat veteran, whatever you want to get all the medals for that, even though I never did actually go on a ship, just for the record on that too. I was one of the only people in the Navy stationed 4 years on a shore.
That's wild.
So this is a special program that I was in, loved it. But after the Navy, I knew I wanted to give back. And so my first tour of AmeriCorps was working in alcohol and drug abuse prevention programming with high school and middle school kids.
Okay. That's AmeriCorps.
AmeriCorps, for those that don't know, is a domestic Peace Corps signed by Bill Clinton in 1991.
Okay.
And so that program is a year long, and then what happens at the end of it, they give you a stipend to go to college. And so you work typically in healthcare or working with seniors or literacy programs. But this was like a program, talking to kids about, you know, drugs and alcohol abuse prevention.
Children, these are kids.
High school and junior high.
Kind of like the DARE program. Yeah. Is that?
It was a little bit different than DARE because the difference between this program and what DARE was, this was much more realistic about here's the actual effects of drugs and alcohol, right, and not the scare tactics of DARE, which never worked, by the way.
No,
the research said that people that went through DARE were more likely to use drugs
because they got the information.
I know, I did. I was
it totally was.
Yeah.
So I remember the DARE guy, the DARE cop coming in, and he had this suitcase full of drugs.
Sure.
And it was like literally,
Are you serious?
100% in our elementary school, and it was a suitcase full of. Like those, these are real drugs. These are from the, the answer room, and they were like behind these little plastic cases. And I was never more interested in the classroom in my life. I was like, wow,
That's interesting. Well, and I'll tell you why that program was so interesting to me is because it was a very realistic conversation. This was all in the Bay Area. It was all like San Francisco Bay, North Bay, East Bay, when we worked throughout the whole Bay Area. So, I mean, these are people that were obviously very exposed to a lot of different drugs as kids and things like that. So the program itself, I enjoyed it a great deal. But I did that for a year. And once I completed the contract, it's a funny story because of the fact of like, I was at a convention in San Jose where it was a volunteerism conference and there was a group of performers that were there. And they were like, it was like the entertainment for the conference. And they're like, if you want to join our troop or whatever, you can interview to come on the road. And I was like, that sounds great. Get out of here and go on the road. Let's travel. Let's do this. So I set up an interview for the next day. And so the next day comes, and I totally blew off the interview. So I was headed to the hot tub. And I had, like my towel on my shoulder. I was on my way to the hot tub, and the guy stopped me. He's like, hey, man, you still coming to the interview, right? I was like, oh, yeah. I was just on my way to go change. Let me be right back. So I come back down, and I don't know if you've ever had an interview where you're completely and totally relaxed with no pressure. That's exactly how it felt. We were on a patio and iced teas, and he's very much so interviewing me like you are now in a very comfortable way. And I was like, yeah, I totally want to go. Let's do it. What do we got to do? Sign me up.
How old are you now?
Yeah, I was about 21 at the time, 21.
Down for whatever.
Oh, I was ready to. And the tour was, they were saying, oh, we're going to go in Europe, we're going to Africa. I said, man, I'm so into this. And then there was like, oh, yeah, by the way, there's a cost. And I said, well, I'm broke because I'm, in this AmeriCorps program, it's Domestic Peace Corps. They give you a living stipend. They don't have money. And they said, well, you can apply for a scholarship. And I said, well, okay, I'll apply. And so the interview went great. They sent me a letter and they said, oh, you're in. I said, this sounds awesome. And they said, so, but scholarship wise, because it will only give you this amount of money, like $2,000. And the program was like $14,000 for a year. And I had like $3,000 in cash, and like the whole bank account was $3,000 maybe. And so they just kept coming with more scholarship money as the time gets closer. And so finally, it almost paid for the entire thing. And I was like, great, let's go.
So what?
That's cool.
You said entertainment.
Yeah.
What are these guys doing?
There's Up With People was the name of the program. And it was started in 1969. Okay. And so the idea was it was supposed to bring together the world through peace, friendship, and understanding. That was the idea of it. Very hippie-esque,
Sure.
Well, come to find out that it was
mindset behind Woodstock almost.
a little bit of that. A little bit of also like the U.S. government was involved to
Oh, got it.
infiltrate communist countries with this auspice of a singing group. And so I was like, well, wait a minute.
This is a government-backed situation.
It was then in 1969, 60, cool. 70, 71, 72. And so I didn't know any of that at the time. All I knew was that was awesome. And I was
21,
like,
dude, let's go.
I wanted to travel. Put me on this bus and I said, let's do this. It was absolutely life-changing. I showed up for the staging, and I realized that there were people that were in the tour that were from all around the world. And so it was 60, I think, no, it was close to 70% women and then 30% men. And so
Can't beat that.
I'm just saying that's the number. So
Yeah.
and there was over 37 different countries within the tour. So you got people from all over Europe and in Africa and
You're
everywhere else.
going to these countries.
Yeah, and then that was just the cast. And then they said, okay, so we're going to go to staging. And then the staging was outside of Denver. And so I get to the staging, and I haven't been acting since like 8th grade was the last time I was in a play. And so I'm auditioning.
Like in Bush or something.
Yeah, it's funny. No. The irony of your statement is that the play that I was in was called Peace Child, and I played a Russian dictator, and so that was my little role. So yeah, Peace Child was the name. So yeah, good call. But the idea was that they said they were going to do auditions. So remember, there's only so many parts, and I thought, well, I'll audition anyway and see if I get it. Well, I was like me and like 70 other guys, and I ended up getting one of the main parts in the show, which was like, wait, what? So then I had to learn the script and like get all this, I was so nervous because I hadn't done anything. And there were people that were professional singers and dancers, and I can't dance. You probably skin tone. I can't.
Whoa.
Right? So
Just kidding.
hot take here, you know what I mean? So, but the idea was I landed this position in the cast, and then I had all this responsibility, and that changed a ton because they said, well, here's the deal. We're going to be traveling. We're going to go from Colorado, then we're going to go to Wyoming, and then we're going to Montana, North Dakota, Indiana, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and then we're going to fly out of Pennsylvania at the break, and then we're going to end up for 6 months across Europe. And then we're going to start in Sweden, and then we're going to go Sweden and the Netherlands and Belgium and Germany, and then end up in Italy and Switzerland and Spain, and then finally in Portugal. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever happened to me.
That's insane.
We're going to all these places. We're performing all over, and I'm learning and having just the best time of my life. And in terms of my mental state, couldn't have been stronger. It could not have been a better place to be.
What motivated you for all of this thing? Was it just the escape?
It's an adventure.
Yeah, but absolutely the adventure.
Yeah.
And knowing too about like every single day of that tour was different. And so challenges wise, I've never worked harder. I'm going to get weird. I never worked harder. I never tried more. Yeah. I never laughed harder. I never felt as strong as I did during that time ever.
Wow.
Like because of the fact of just feeling this role. And like, you know, you're meeting people and they're treating you like royalty when you won't show up, because every place we went to, we stayed with families. So these people would completely open their houses to you and be like, yep, here's my family, you know, here's my kids, you know, here's keys to the car, you know, help yourself to whatever you want in the fridge. And so being treated like, you know, like, again, like a celebrity just felt amazing. And so, yeah, the whole time I'm just like, for the first time maybe ever, that I was 100% present of knowing every single day. It was like, I wonder about today. Where are we going to end up now?
Yeah.
And some of the places were challenging. Like when you're talking about the former Eastern Europe, where it's like, oh, this is poor. Yeah. You know, we're sleeping in their bed and they're on the couch. And then the next day we're at like, you know, the local mayor's house where he's got a hot tub in his basement.
And this is government funded.
It's a nonprofit organization, just so you know. But back in the day, it was. There was definitely. And there's a great documentary that's out there if you want to investigate. It's called Smile Till It Hurts. And it's all about what the history of the nonprofit was. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. When you say, like, the word adventure came, because when what I hear about your story is you're kind of an adventurous.
No,
like everything you're doing, you auctioneer, toy company, church,
buying and selling. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. So how long were you in this?
This is only for a year. So for this 1 year, you knew that at a beginning, middle, and an end, and even at the end, it truly was like, okay, we're done. Well, everybody split. I mean,
you only can do 1 year.
You can only do 1 year, and you could come back as a staff person. Yeah. And then you get paid to be there. But the difference for me was like, I had a good time and I knew it was over, but I knew that at that time it was going to be, this is it, we're done. And I was seeing somebody at the time too, so that was also really painful, because where we ended was in Portugal. And then I knew that I wanted to stay in Europe for another like 3 months. So I stayed in Europe for 3 months, traveling all over the place. And I was like, then another whole adventure started. Yeah. But knowing it was like, okay, that was it, you know, and now it's time to say goodbye to these friends that I know some of them I'll never see again. Really difficult. But, you know, in far as the adventuresome spirit, it set me off on a path, absolutely. Because then it was like nothing was impossible. Like in terms of travel and meeting people and strangers and being in a different place where I don't know the language, that didn't even matter anymore. It was like,
was that hard at first? Like, I can imagine that putting yourself out there, I mean, that's got to be extremely uncomfortable and acting, all of those things, right? Like
completely. And it's a really good, a keen observation on your part, because absolutely it was. Because for a lot of people in the cast, they'd never been anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we had ranges of ages in the cast that were everything from like 18 all the way to like 27-year-old man.
That's crazy.
So those people were all like thrown in together, and you've got people that can barely speak English that are in it. And now, you know, I'm in a country where nobody's speaking English. It was absolutely a challenge in that way. Wild. And so, yeah, I mean, the friends that I made through there, the irony of it all is I still have really close friends that I keep. One of them is actually here in Colorado that we've been friends ever since. So that's like going on 35 years ago. Yeah, we're still tight. That's and amazing. So. Yeah, that's exactly what it did. It created in me an ability to look at things completely different than I ever had.
Kind of, and more without fear.
Well, I've always said that a good amount of fear is always healthy. Yeah. You know, you want to be afraid. If you meet somebody and they're completely and totally just like they're psychopaths. It's just like you should have some. Even before I go on any event, there's a degree of like I'm a little bit, you know.
So how do you deal with that?
I said, another great question. I think the way that I deal with it is the actor, the dude from The Big Lebowski, Jeff Bridges, is a great quote. You know, he's getting ready to go on a set, and he was a real famous actor was standing there next to him, and the guy was like, I want to do a good job. I'm really nervous. And he's like, oh, that's fear, man. That's your buddy. You got to make friends with that buddy. You got to see him on your shoulder and go, oh, here you are. And as long as you can acknowledge and know that it's there, then you can move forward from it. But if you're trying to pretend or bury it down or drink your way or smoke your way or eat your way through it or whatever, that's just not going to work. Yeah. I think that that's really the key for me is that, but I still get nervous. I still have fear. Yeah. It's just a matter of like, I just don't care.
And that's dude, I know exactly how that you get to that place where you're just like, you know what, I don't even care anymore.
Well, it's like sort of like I say I don't care, but I do care. It's just more the idea of like I know that most people when they talk about the worst case scenario, right. Like all that stuff's already happened to me. So I've already seen some things, and I've already, I know that as the cliche goes that rock bottom has a basement. I've heard these before, and I've seen it. So when I run into somebody that somehow like harbored, right, in some way, they're like, I just can't.
Harbored, you say?
Harbored in some way, like, oh, I just can't. I'm like, why? It's like, what if I fail? I was like, what if you succeed?
Right.
Well, what if they all laugh at me? I would hope they would laugh at you. Right. You have to learn to laugh at yourself probably more than anybody. Would you say you're the kind of personality to jump first and figure it out later? Dude, I feel like you've known me for a long time.
Yes. Dude, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm going to the
clip. Totally. Yeah. I mean, absolutely, I do, and I think too that it's a matter of like again, when people ask that of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? I'll tell maybe one story about like I remember like, and this is a job that I had when I was in London. I was working for a cancer charity, and I remember walking down the street, and I see this crumpled up piece of paper, and I open it up, and it said, "You're cordially invited to the world premiere of the Parole Officer, starring Steve Coogan." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool." And I was like, "Oh, wait, that's tonight." And I was like, "Oh, snap, that's happening like 20 minutes from now." I'm like, I'm already down here. Might as well show up, right? So I go to the Empire Theater in Leicester Square, and there's a red carpet. And the photographers are all there, click, 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 click. And then, and then remember, the thing's all crumpled up, it's all sweaty or whatever, right? So I like wrinkle it out, flatten it out, and I like, you guys like, come on in.
Yeah.
So I walk down the red carpet, and I go inside, and I see Tim Burton's wife, Helena Bonham Carter. She's standing there. And she's acting awkward. She's standing there by herself. And I look, and there's Hugh Grant. And I was like, oh, neat. So I realized that this is all reserved seating, right? So I was like, well, shoot, I find my seat, right? So I go sit down, and I realize that there's an empty seat next to me. And the whole time, I'm imagining somebody's going to come. Hey, buddy, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And so I look around, and I'm like, well, they'll just kind of see how it plays out. And I watched the movie, and I figured, you know what? I've already made it this far. Might as well just see how far I can get. Yeah. So then I see, like, 2 rows behind me, the star of the movie standing there, right? And so I said, I get up. I introduce myself. I said, hey, how you doing? I'm from the States. I just want to say it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. He shakes my hand. He's got glasses on like this. He looks at me, and he's like this. He's like trying to see if I'm somebody or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh. Thank you very much for it. It shook my hand, and that was it. But, point is, like, I think I've always I've always wanted to think that that it is what's the worst case, and I'll just say, I'll just deal with it. Yeah. Jump now, figure out what it's going to be later.
See, and it's a strength, right? I'm going through the Clifton Strength Assessment right now, and that's an activator strength, right? It's to jump first and act later.
Oh, yeah.
And you just have this relationship with fear and failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like you started talking about, and that's kind of how I feel sometimes too. Like,
well, and I'll tell you that, when I will talk about my mother a little bit, because again, that's part of my journey and my story is that, unfortunately we lost her to alcohol poisoning at 51 years old, but she was absolutely fearless. I mean, 4'11", 95 pounds, and just a spitfire, absolute spitfire, but somebody who had resilience in a way that I can't even fathom, like that level of being able to continue on doing the thing. And this isn't a punchline. This is the truth, that she was a teacher as well and an instructor of everything from gymnastics to aerobics to all the world of fitness. But one of the other jobs that she had later in life was she was a birthday clown. And so, just let me
Sorry,
finish.
Mom. That sounds like my mom.
So, sorry. As a birthday clown, 4'11", 95 pounds. Okay,
that's awesome.
This is where the fearlessness comes from. I remember, like, I saw this firsthand. Of she was getting dressed to go do a birthday party, and I said, "Oh, well, you're going to take the truck." And so my dad had this big lifted, like, F-150 truck. It wasn't 33s, but they were big tires. Yeah. So I'd like climb into this truck, right? full birthday gear, full birthday makeup, costume, the whole thing, and so I remember her getting in the car. She drove to make this turn to where she was doing the birthday party, and the tire from the truck actually came off of the truck. All I could imagine was my mother running down the street, full birthday makeup, clown, just chasing this giant tire. She never did get to the tire. I think it just kept going.
But she was chasing a tire.
She was completely a clown makeup.
Sounds like a fever dream.
Absolutely.
Like,
I was like, well, what happened? She's like, well, I walked to the party. I did the party, and then your dad came and got the truck. Found the tire somewhere. But her sense of resilience and absolutely her sense of fearlessness in the face of the worst of adversity and abuse and all the things that come with it, that truly was to me of a, like, I just saw in her something that was always just like a light. And and there were plenty of things that were terrible, but in the way of remembrance of her and her ability to see past like her lot in life, if you will, and her challenges, and still put her face to it, a positive, was always something that, for my brother and sister and I, we all took that away. And we all have a sense of resilience about us, for sure.
Where did you think she got that? I mean, did you know your grandparents?
Well, that's another interesting path to go down, because absolutely, her growing up was equally as difficult as anybody from another set of alcoholic parents. Where did she get it from? I think it was sheer will. Yeah. I mean, I think that being 4'11" and 95 pounds, she always had to prove herself. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a constant struggle about, showing people that she had ability and strength and education to be able to do what maybe people doubted her. And so that's kind of where I think it came from, because all of us, my brother and sister, we're all really tiny. I
feel you, man.
So us short guys got to stick together.
So funny.
Yeah.
I want to ask too. I know.
I don't see you as tiny. That's so crazy to me, dude. That doesn't.
I'm the tallest in my family, if that tells you anything. And my wife always makes the joke about hey, maybe you and your brother and sister can finally find that ring and get back to the Shire. I'm like, whoa.
Hey, man, the Hobbit was the most powerful. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. But yes, absolutely.
I want to ask a little bit about your relationship with your mom. You speak very fondly of her. Yeah. So I'm imagining that you got a very close relationship.
We can talk about that. Yeah. I mean, we definitely had a very close relationship, to the point where it was almost dysfunctional. Yeah. In that I knew everything. I knew everything that was going on, good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. And so her journey to, sobriety had so many relapses and so many falls and so many things that landed her in either rehab or mental hospital or jail, in the same way my dad did. So, I mean, it was almost too close to, and that's part of the reason I left. Yeah. When I finally was away, it gave me the distance to be able to have my own life and start to figure out my own personality and how I was going to navigate the world, really. And so, unfortunately, when, at her time of her passing, I was just beginning a relationship with my wife. And so, in that way, about when she passed, it allowed me to truly begin a whole new life with my wife. And that's, going
How old were you when she passed away?
Geez, I was barely 30. I think I was 36. Yeah, 35, 36. And so that, at that time, it was still pretty painful. But I have to consider that my little brother, he was only 24.
Oh, wow.
And so it was pretty young.
Yeah.
And, my sister was only 26 at the time. So I was definitely probably the most, obviously the oldest and most mature, if you want to call it that. But I was the closest to it as well. And so, yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, being the oldest, man.
Did you, so you said she was in and out.
Yeah, in and out.
Sobriety seasons, and she died from alcohol poisoning. Was that, I mean, she was obviously still drinking at her death, right?
Yeah.
And man, how can I just
go ahead
into that, man? Like, what was it like, dude?
Well, the idea was we'd already had seen her, be clean and sober for periods of time, sometimes years.
Yeah.
And so the last relapse was one that we didn't see coming. And so
she had a stretch of sobriety.
Oh yeah, many stretches. And this last one was probably maybe 6 months, 6, 7, 8 months. But then it came on, and the last interaction that we ever had was very much so like I'd gone back to like where she lived at to where she worked at. And I was, asking about her, and they're like, oh, she doesn't work here anymore. And I'm like, wait, what? And so, she hasn't been here for like 2 weeks. I was like, oh, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, sure.
And so when I showed up at her apartment, like she was clearly drunk. And that last interaction was incredibly painful because it was like, to know this, I didn't know at the time that this was going to be the last words that we were going to speak to each other. And she was living with a boyfriend at the time, and like the whole thing just felt wrong. And I didn't, my girlfriend, now my wife, she was in the car, and I didn't even have her go in because I knew something was going to be wrong. And so when I got back to the car, I told her, I said, just drive. I don't want to even talk about it. And it was probably, I don't know if it was 2 weeks later, but that's when I got the call that she'd, passed away. Yeah.
Jeez.
So the last interaction wasn't good. And it was a matter of like after a period of sobriety where we thought that she was finally going to turn it around. And when we got the coroner's report with all the toxicology, that's when we knew what had really happened. And that, it was poisoning as opposed to something else.
So
I'm sorry.
Well, and I appreciate you asking the questions because it's what happened. Yeah. I mean,
What was your mother's name?
Jerry
Jerry?
Jerry Lee. And again, amazing, beautiful woman that truly did love her kids, but that struggle was always there. Yeah. And in my dad's case of, my biological father, I mean, the struggle that he had was very real in that the only thing that saved him was AA, and saved him as in being in and out of rehab and prison as well, and jail, that it was like, I mean, I saw two different examples of parents that were struggling from the very early on.
You said AA. I'd like to key on that. If it's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
How old were you when he discovered AA?
Oh man, I think probably like in terms of really turning it over. I really wish he could hear to speak. Maybe he can speak to you on this podcast at some time.
Is he local?
No, but he comes into town to visit and things. I'd love to have him on here.
We'd love that.
But
that'd be amazing.
I think I was probably at the age of about 15, at the 14, 15. And so he started AA, but of course then it was rehab, it was halfway house, then another halfway house, and the relapse, back to halfway house. But really getting finally clean and sober at 33 years old, so I would have been like 16, 17.
And this is your biological father.
Biological.
So you saw him get sober pretty early.
Yeah, but I mean, it still was a struggle.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm saying, but in your life, so
sure.
you had some. And is that something he's still part of today?
Absolutely. I mean, he's still real involved in the community of AA. And I'll switch gears and talk about him for a little bit because he's also somebody who has truly showed me like there's nothing that you can't do. He just put his head down. I mean, he didn't even start climbing mountains until he was like 36.
Literally.
And since then, he's climbed Rainier, he climbed Mount Olympus, multiple trips to like the North Rim of Grand Canyon, Machu Picchu, traveled all through Vietnam to the highest peak, climbs the highest peak in Vietnam. But again, from somebody who has no experience in backpacking or camping or any of that stuff, didn't even start until 30, like say 35. So, but inspirational isn't even enough of a word to say that because the community and the amount of men that he's mentored, he's done prison ministry, he's done hospice care with guys. He's traveled. He's gone to AA in every country he's ever been in. And so, like, talk about showing up at a place and just be like, here's my people. Yeah, so, love that.
So you say he does prison ministry.
He's done that before.
So he's a spiritual guy.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Bar none. He's the most spiritual person I've ever met.
Is that rubbed off on you? Where's your mindset on that? Is it okay? Can we ask?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I grew up Catholic, and I say grew up Catholic, and I make a joke all the time that I say that, the only time Catholics feel good, right, is when they feel bad. And they feel bad all the time. That's what guilt does when you're Catholic. So religion has always been, I always like to tell people that I have faith, but my faith is something that I've come to from a huge journey, big time. And so it's rubbed off on me in the way that I think that I believe in that there's a higher power in me.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's a great place to start, man.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I think that sometimes that people can get lost in the details of what religion really is about.
I agree.
Because when you get into the semantics of it all, that it's like, well, what do you think you really should be doing right now? Do you think whatever your God is that he would think that that's okay? Right. Probably not. Don't do that.
Right.
Be
There you
better,
go.
not bitter.
So like my dad. I don't mean that another way. Like, do better.
Yeah.
Do better.
You can be
But,
better.
but it's true too, and I think that that's inside of religion. That's something that really, what I'm learning is spirituality is not a set of rules.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely.
It's a submission and just a checks and balances.
Yeah.
And
I think that having someone to be able to talk to, whether it's a God or whether it's a counselor, a therapist, or maybe it's just a good friend that you trust, that's a degree of spirituality as well. A faith in another person to listen and give you the time and energy that you need to not only call you on your stuff, but also to be able to celebrate. Yeah. I think sometimes religion gets a bad rap for the idea of like, it's just there to tell you what not to do.
Totally.
But there's idea that someone's looking over you and saying, hey, that was a good thing that you did.
Yeah.
Do more of that.
Or I have great things. Come check it out.
Go down this
future. Let's go.
And so that's I think that when I think about religion, that's where I come at it from spirituality more than that and anything. Yeah, that people could have faith in something bigger than themselves. They should.
I love that.
Yeah,
They should.
They should.
I agree. Because once you start to believe that this is all that,
I can see
that's
where
when
that'd be
things start
very,
to go
very
down.
much so. Like if that's the end, then no. Yeah, but again, I do think that there's moments of beauty in my life that I've seen where it's like I just have to look and just pinch myself about like, oh my God, who something is responsible.
I didn't do this. This is actually.
But also going back to a bit about travel, that I think that I've seen and been and surrounded by good people everywhere I've gone. So whether those were religious people or not,
Right.
When I said before about what you go looking for is exactly what you find.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, yes. And so it is about attitude. It's about as I said, perspective that you get. And that's where, if I've learned a tiny bit of something, that's it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to ask you a question. So at the beginning of this, you had said that you were into addiction counseling with youth. And
Sure.
obviously, your relationship with your mom, there's a lot of compassion inside of that. I'm assuming that struggle with your mom is kind of what led you into
Well,
that?
absolutely. I think that, drugs and alcohol treatment and or prevention, those are a world by which that I spent a lot of time in.
Yeah.
And so I saw plenty of ways that it didn't work. And whether that was the treatment program didn't work or that person wasn't willing to commit to the time and energy it took. But I think it's always been part of my journey to just kind of, see how I can contribute to making things better.
Sure.
And sometimes I think that especially with men, it's like we're kind of trained from a very early age that the only way we can really bond over anything is with a Coors Light, right? And some nachos or whatever. Like, where'd that come from? I don't even like Coors Light or nachos. Well, I do like nachos. But I mean,
I do like
I
nachos.
do like nachos. But I mean, it's a very much like this manly man thing about like testosterone and burying any bit of feelings and things like that. That's such nonsense.
I agree.
And I think that, when you meet another man that you can connect with, or a woman that you're friends with, that you can just be honest with and be vulnerable with, that's huge. And that's just not taught. And so because of that, when you're taught that, manliness is, the football game, or it's we're going to go out and shoot ducks or deer or whatever it is. And, like, well, what about sensitivities? What about that?
And honestly,
how's that fit into
Let me
it,
ask
right?
you this: what is those vulnerable conversations for you personally? What has that done for you?
Well, that's the best question I think I've ever gotten. I'll tell you why. Because what I've gotten is an ability to be myself.
Yes.
And so whether it's the people that I've been drawn to most are those people, men and women, that have said like, no, that's okay that you're, and one of the best examples I can think of is one of my, and this is, I want this cut out, by the way, can we cut this? Is one of my favorite groups of all time is the Indigo Girls, which is, I don't know if you know who they are, but
Keep that in. I'm just kidding.
no, you keep it in. I don't care.
just kidding.
No,
I'm just
we're
kidding.
cutting it
No,
out.
but the first ever single that I ever got. Remember what cassettes were?
Oh, yeah.
Like cassettes.
A
Single, that's what they were. The song was called Closer to Fine. And I mean, these are two, you couldn't be further from my group of musicians that I was into in high school than the Indigo Girls. But it wasn't until meeting somebody that was like, no, I like the Indigo Girls too.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's
You
a
can be
man,
cool
too.
and like it.
you can like this group and still
And still
like,
do this.
we
Be a
don't have
man?
to, and not be weird about it. Like, yeah. And then I was thinking, okay, fine. then I will. And then from there, like, oh no, and it also involves this. Okay, so you're into, romantic comedy. You don't have to be ashamed of that. You don't have to like bury that. And so you like nature too. Of like, it doesn't have anything to do with my sexuality. It has everything to do with my ability to just be vulnerable, as I said from the beginning. And so when you can be vulnerable, whether it, like I said, another man, another woman, somebody in your life that you care, that's huge. Yes. And that is an eye-opening experience by which it's like, I do think we've made some progress, about this much, in terms of masculinity and femininity and finding some sort of overlap. But I wish there was more. Yeah. And so, yeah.
And I think, honestly, man, like that's another reason that we wanted to just do this.
Oh, yeah.
Was to have these conversations, right? And to honestly set an example of like, hey, we're going to be vulnerable here. We're going to share
space for vulnerability.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely think it's awesome. And I'll tell you that there's a great example of where, and I put that into my classroom. I was a teacher at Front Range for about 6.5 years where I taught public speaking. And by the way, nobody wants to take public speaking. Nobody does.
I failed it 3 times in high college.
I'll take it.
Yeah, well, here's what I brought to that table. Like I said to my students from day one, from every class that I taught, I said, listen, here's my opportunity to give you the chance to find your voice, whatever that voice is. And you can take this opportunity and we can have a hell of a lot of fun together. But know the fact of like, I'm not here to teach you anything. What I'm here to do is help you get the chance to find whatever voice you have. And every single semester, there'd be somebody at the end of it that would come to me and they're like, I just want to thank you so much. I'm like, okay, first off, I appreciate your thank you, but this has everything to do with you and your ability, as I said, to take a chance, be vulnerable, have fun, and be silly at some point, and maybe just see of like, oh yes. And what ended up happening every single time was once they were vulnerable, everybody in the other bit of the classroom was like, well, maybe I could push it a little bit.
Dude, it's great.
Love that experience.
I've always had this question, right? I've been thinking about this a lot of like,
go ahead.
You got an individual, right? You've got these ideas and ideologies or whatever. Then you get in a group of people and all of a sudden it just...
That's so fun. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. That's a statement. What's your question, though?
Look, it's not. I just think.
You're just thinking about it.
I'm thinking about that a lot. Like, what happens between their
so
mental?
sharp, man.
Dude, it really was. Like, what happens between that? You know what I mean? And it's usually.
I can tell you, it's groupthink, and I saw it when I was in the military, where it was very much so like bury it all down, don't say anything to anybody, and don't ever vulnerable anything. Even in that environment, what I found was, because at the time I was barely 120 pounds. I mean, rail skinny. And scared to death, by the way, every day. It's like prison, except that you don't have all the other things.
You volunteered for it.
Yes, I know. Yeah, totally. But even in that environment, that I learned that I could do like a really great impression of the company commander. And he was big guy, scary as all get up. But I could do this impression that was perfect. And when I would do it, I have everybody rolling. And, like I said, it was a skill that I knew that I could utilize. But in that environment, like it's groupthink. But having said that, in the classroom, it was like, I'm not going to put up with you being disrespectful to anybody as a classroom. I'm not going to disrespect you. You will not disrespect each other. And the way that I do this, I love this example. And this is the first time I've ever really talked about this whole thing. So every single classroom, I would do this exercise. And I would have that to the second, third day, I would identify who my characters were. Like you're a funny guy.
Right,
you'd be one of them, right? I'd say, I need you to stay after class. I write your name on the board or whatever. And I say, I need this one, Mitch, I need you here. And it's okay. And they'd be sitting there, they'd be so scared or whatever. And I said, you've been chosen. And I said, how's that? And they said, you've been chosen for an exercise that we're going to be doing next class period. So, okay. So the rest of the class, the other 25 people, were all under the impression that they were going to do a speech on their favorite band. And they only had to speak for like 5 minutes about their favorite song and all that fun stuff. And so the other people that I'd kept aside, I said, you have been chosen for the world's worst audience. Nobody's going to know. No one else will know that you're going to take a role in this job here. And so for you, what I want you to do is, for the first speech, I just want you to ask ridiculously stupid questions that have nothing to do with anything. That's your whole job. For every speech that you're just going to ask dumb questions. You are going to be the person that's just like on your phone, disrespectful, just to text in, whatever, all that. You're going to be somebody who's going to, like shuffling around. You can't sit still. You're constantly moving. It's
distraction.
Yes, oh God, yeah. You are going to just have RBF the entire time. Just just
Mean mugging.
mugging them. Just
I hate you.
no,
Yeah.
I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Like that whole look, right? Know what you're going to do. And everybody had a job. And it would start small, right? So no one knew that, like, why are you being, so disrespectful? Like, why are you asking so many questions that don't matter? Why are you being so, like, eating Cheetos during the meeting or whatever? What is that about? Put that away. And it would just start small. And by the end, it would be complete chaos in the room. To the point where one time there was a guy that was there. He was a huge dude. He was from Kuwait. And he got up. And I said, hey, I need to talk to you outside of class. And he didn't know what was going on. And he said, if that guy asks one more question, I'm going to beat his ass in the parking lot after class. And I said, look, Willie, this is just an exercise. Just know that we're just here doing this thing. He's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to go back to jail. I said, no problem, bro.
You don't have to.
No problem.
Congratulations.
We'll be all right.
Yeah.
And every single time it would be this is the worst it's ever going to be. And nobody is going to do those behaviors because we know how disrespectful that they are.
Wow,
Every single
that's
one.
really
It's
good.
so powerful.
And so, and that would set the tone for the rest of the class. And I know that environment, I just was thinking about one of the students just the other day. There's only been one class in I don't know how many hundreds of students that I brought them all together and took a picture of the class because they were so tight. And at the end of it, it was like, when they left, it was really difficult because I was like, just like I said with the Upper People thing, you're done. I'm probably never going to see any people again. And I said, just put the final in there and just go. Because again, it was just that they were that close. But again, how often do you get a chance to do that at a college?
Yeah.
How in a classroom that's like you're building rapport with each other just as much as you're, figuring out what your voice is. Love that experience. And the only reason I stopped teaching at all was because of the fact they wanted me to do it online. And I was like, I'm not teaching public speaking online. That's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. But that environment was great, and I enjoyed it. And again, giving people the chance to tell their story, share their story, is what connects people. And I mean, a lot of times people will sit down with me like we're doing now, and I'll just be firing off all these questions. Like, why do you want to know all this stuff? Like, you're a roofer, right? As we said from that day, of like, well, but I was curious, have you ever found anything? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, have you ever found anything, like walking around or on a roof? Yeah,
okay,
in your
right
case.
on. Sorry.
And they're like, well, why would you want to know that? Because it says something about you. You're observant, and maybe you found something that was pretty memorable. I've heard some amazing stories about just that one question, let alone asking somebody like yourself about like, well, what's something that you wish that people knew about you? Yeah. And you're like, well, do you care? Well, yeah, I care. Yeah. Because the next time I'm going to introduce you, I'll be like, oh, it's not just Mitch. This guy's a former MMA fighter. I'm sorry, what now? Like, and you get people to talk about what they're proud of and who they are. Then all of a sudden it's like, you've got more of a connection that's there.
You get to find that spark too.
I like to think so.
Yeah. We had this conversation earlier today. You get to a point where it's one of my, honestly, I get my spark when I'm able to say, what makes you spark or dig? Because a lot of people don't, a lot of people hide that. They're not willing to like, well, nobody cares that I like, the indigo.
Yeah, Indigo Girls. And that's a good example.
You find it.
Sure.
And they come alive.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm like,
well, and again, I absolutely know that this is true as a networking professional, that it's like nobody wants to talk about roofing. No. Nobody wants to talk about, like realtor. I mean, I can't tell you how many realtors I've met. I'm like, exactly. I don't care. Yeah. I'm not selling my house, so tell me something that. But then you're right. It's like there was a guy that I met the other day, and he's like, well, he owned an IT company. He was a brilliant guy. And he's like, well, I'm a blacksmith. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's awesome,
it's like,
dude.
Clink, clink, clink. And he said, yep, that's it. He's like, amazing. that's how I get my real joy in my life is doing blacksmithing. And I could have never seen that coming. But I do think that it's a matter of of taking the time to sit and not only ask good questions, but then wait for the answer. My wife will tell you all too well that I interrupt way too much. And so, like, when I asked you about...
Guilty.
I'm a work in progress. Yeah, no joke. I mean, but again, to know, like, when I'm doing it, that I realize that I should stop.
Yeah.
And when you got people that love you, can tell you it in a way that is like, okay, so just, okay. And do you want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yes. Then you should listen. I'll be like, oh, shit. Okay, I will. Well, I'll pump the brakes. But yeah, it's true that the other thing that my perspective has changed on something, which is that because my dad is such a good listener, and that he is somebody who has heard so many stories, and nothing phases him. Yeah. So you can drop all the bombs you want, and he's like, oh, yeah. He's not saying no, trying to top your story.
Right.
He's not trying
safe
to.
here.
Yeah. Well, and I think AA's got a term for this too, that, that you're grandstanding or you're showboating and all these things of like, he has had so many experiences in his life that he's so like humble about. I'll give you an example. Like I was doing a paper on near-death experiences.
Oh boy.
And I asked him, I'm like, hey Dad, tell me about that time that you almost died. He said, which time?
1, 2, or 3.
He's like, well, I've been legally dead twice in hospital. And then one time was in a hotel room that somebody brought me back to life with the EpiPen, through the chest, like in Pulp Fiction, that kind of thing. And it was one of those things about like, oh no, this is a real life thing of like, when you do hard drugs, you need to be ready to bring somebody back to life. And like, wait, what? And then you realize of like all the stuff that put into his system, you'd think that his brain would be complete mush. And he's even admitted it. And then he'll tell you like, oh, you're talking about 1973. We were in a Dodge Valiant or whatever. We were driving down through Denver. We ended up at this house on Ray Street. I think it was 301 Ray Street, as a matter of fact.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, what are you talking about?
That's insane.
But that level of detail is sometimes, like I said, he's like, it's a curse because I can remember everything.
That's so tough.
And so there's a great song by John Prine, the last song that he ever wrote. And I would love to hear it played at some point during your podcast. It's called I Remember Everything. And it's a great, great tune.
Who is
and
it?
John Prine, folk singer from the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. His career was pretty extensive. But to know, again, that perspective and learning about who you are and what your contribution is going to be, I'm proud of him, not because he's a saint, but because he's been honest about who he is and the mistakes that he's made. He's always said that when I was a kid, he's like, I'm the best example of a bad example, which is a cliche, but he absolutely is. And to know that, perfection that's not the goal. I mean, in fact, when I meet somebody who doesn't seem to have any flaws or they're just like way too, put together, I'm like, there's some nonsense. They're broken.
I've heard it said, show me your shortcomings and build me a bridge. Show me your accomplishments and build me a wall.
Oh, I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone said that right, and I'm butchering it, but it's something to that.
There's a challenge there with being confident and not appearing cocky. I mean, I'm proud of who I am and what I've done, but I'm equally as owning up to the mistakes I've made and knowing the fact, as I said before, that the work in progress of it all.
See, but I think that comes back to everything's on a surface level, right? That comes back to us as the individual to ask more questions and to dig deeper.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And to not create these stories based on perceptions. Like,
Yeah, okay.
Sure. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
there's a responsibility on both parties, right? Like, you shouldn't be ashamed of your accomplishments, right? You should be proud of those things, and people should support you for that, right? But we live in a world of jealousy and all of these things, and, and it's like, and so to be humble,
Right, sure.
we're not sharing our accomplishments, the things that we're really truly interested in, and that to me is the death of humanity.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not ready to call humanity dead yet.
No, not at all.
But what I will say is the fact of like, here we have in this long form conversation, and I'm grateful for the chance to share. But to know that the average attention span is so short. The soundbite out of this might be 10 seconds on Instagram. And I hope that you quote me as saying how much I love the Indigo Girls. That's fine. And I hope the Indigo Girls see this. But how often do we get these chances? I'm grateful for you. But how many people take that chance of sitting down with two strangers? We're not strangers. We met once. But the idea of, you don't know me. And I think that I'm going to a networking event in a couple hours, and I'm looking forward to it because there are going to be people there that I don't know.
Do you like networking events?
Look, most of the time I do, because of the fact of I get to put somebody on the back foot, as in like they're so used to giving their speech, how they're a roofer or how they, have a plumbing company or whatever it is. And when I throw them something like, So tell me about your favorite childhood toy that you lost and you wish you could have back. And you see them go, oh man, I had this big wheel. And then they go back into their mind and they're like, I had so much fun on that big wheel. And you're like, yeah, cool. So I'll remember that. I'll remember you and your big wheel, not your roofing company.
Right.
You.
Dude, okay, so
That's huge, man.
so I honestly I can
Sure.
relate so much. I love the questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I just tell folks the questions. I'm curious to ask you what this is not an egotistical question. What do you remember about meeting me?
About meeting you?
Yeah.
You were pretty tall.
Yeah.
Your name is very, very memorable.
Okay.
And I remember that I was glad that you were there because the way that you described your service club was one made me want to join it.
Which service club?
It was
Rotary. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Rotary. Sorry, I almost said the other, but
Pretty passionate about that.
well, and I'll tell you why that mattered to me because I spent 17 years. 17, geez Louise. Yeah, it was 17 years in my own service club, which is Service to Mankind, Sertoma Club.
Sertoma.
And I was
Here in Loveland?
No, I was in Fort Collins. Okay. It was the Overland Sertoma Club, which I was the Sertoman of the Year twice. I was the sergeant, the president, the secretary. I put a lot of time into that group. So to meet another man that was enthusiastic about his service club, that's how I remember that too.
So I remember you, dude. Because that's how I knew that I knew you. Well, first, I saw your glasses. I think you give cool glasses.
Yeah, thanks.
Everybody watch it.
They're only $3.
But I saw your glasses like, this is familiar.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
And then you shared, I have a company that does, first of all,
Yeah. It's true, I do.
you have a company that has product placement. My job is to
Yeah.
do product placement in media. And I was like, that's cool. And I pelted you with questions.
Yeah,
like, I'm an
sure.
auctioneer.
Yeah.
And then I remember the toy thing.
Oh, yeah, buying and selling.
And so we sat on that back balcony, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I did appreciate you were like, hey, what you did is you removed me from the chaos.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, let's go on the back balcony.
Yeah.
And when I was like, okay, whatever, I'm down, but I'm
Right.
raised eyebrow.
Yeah, sure.
And then we had a conversation that had nothing to do with what we were doing. And I appreciated
absolutely.
it. And it was my
Yeah.
kind. That's why I love networking events.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
Look, I mean, yes, it's true that you know, in the whole world of AI, and we talk about Google reviews, and we talk about the idea of search engine optimization. Here's where my reality meets it too. I like you. Okay, I would have done anything. You said come to your club meeting. I would have gone. If you would have said, hey, I need help moving, because I like you. I mean, and that's what I think that's being lost so much within the overuse of technology.
That's huge.
You're texting me, text me. Just call me.
Yeah.
And we could have ended all this within 30 seconds.
Dude, I can't tell you how much that shit drives me crazy.
it's nuts.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and again, of like taking the time, as you taking the time to actually listen to me now, which I appreciate, that's huge. And when I sit down with somebody like to her coffee, a friend of mine said his daughter had graduated and she was looking to learn more information about foothills. I said, well, I'll meet her at Muggs. And so we sat there and we had this conversation at Muggs. And I realized in that moment about here's this kid, he's only 20, sitting down with a stranger in a coffee shop, which was like completely out of her comfort zone, but still did it. And I was like, this is what's going to qualify her to be hired by any number of companies, including mine.
it's such a lost
Like,
art.
yeah, because of the fact she can do that. And how many times do I think that I see people that use technology because they're afraid? They're afraid of what you're going to say. You're going to look at me weird. When did we become so fearful of other people? Yeah. You know, and you'll text me all day long, 15 text messages back and forth.
Right.
Well, what happens if this was a date?
Right.
Right? Like we want to like have a moment here.
exactly.
It's hard to
back and
watch,
forth.
dude. Yeah.
So again, I'm older, and I know that, but I definitely know the fact of that I can speak to the idea of how different was on the phone when you knew it's long distance. It's going to cost $1 a minute,
Right?
son.
Yeah. Get it in.
Get to the point and get off the phone.
Yeah, it's so funny to think like now about what that was like.
Yeah.
And knowing too about like you better wait till 9 o'clock.
Right. Free nights and weekends, baby.
Or
Yeah, that's a lot.
I mean, this is the oldest person I'm gonna say, the oldest thing I'm gonna say, because like I called and their line was busy.
Yep.
What do you mean it was busy?
Yeah, dude.
How was it busy?
Yeah.
Like
Busy with what? What was it doing?
What was the line doing? Like, no, you have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For how long?
Or you had to beg your sibling to get off the phone.
Dude, get off the internet.
Yeah, dude, please
gosh,
get off the phone. I've got a phone call coming in, you know?
Well, especially like I'm going to reveal a little bit here. You're on the phone. Hey, girl.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Same.
What's up, girl? And like, Mom, get off the phone.
Right? Come on, Mom. You're messing with my game.
It's like, so funny. Yeah, so I mean, I bring all that up because of the fact of, yes, I do think that communication is not necessarily a lost art, but I think what you're going to see is the pendulum swing.
I agree with you,
Dude,
actually.
you're so right.
I totally
And
agree.
by swing, I mean, if you talk about, I know that there's bars that exist now and or coffee shops where they say no phones allowed.
Yeah.
No Wi-Fi, no nothing.
No Wi-Fi, no phone, no nothing.
Yeah.
And I find myself of like, oh my gosh, we're having a moment here in this beautiful, this just happened. Like I was at a restaurant. It was a nice place, too expensive. And there's a couple, and then Jenny and I were sitting there. And every one of the couples was just head down, just full on, just. And I was like, look, why didn't you just stay home?
Yeah.
I mean, you're here because of the environment. And this dungeon here is a nice one to be in, let me tell you. But the idea of you're at this beautiful restaurant, you're there for the moment.
Right.
What could you possibly be looking
missing?
at? Yeah, that's not there with the person that you love right now in front of you.
We were at a bar the other night at a pretty nice place, and my wife answered the phone at the bar, and they slipped a card over the bar that said, go take the call outside.
No kidding. Wow.
It was awesome. Dude.
Yeah, I love it.
And the gal was like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, thank you.
Well, and when I meet somebody too that's either met their spouse or their wife or husband that in an old school way at a bar, let's say, I love that. I love hearing stories like that. When you that's another great question to ask Cash of like, how did you meet your wife? Like, and you learn so much about like, well, you know, we were at a zombie potluck. I'm like, wait, what? That's
Nowadays, it's like Bumble.
Tell me what?
We met on Bumble.
Oh, Bumble or Tinder or where the other ones are. I was at auction. I'll tell one story. I was at auctioneer school, and there's this, we'll call him Bubba, because he looked like a Bubba. You know, he had like not just a fat tire. He had like
Exactly what you're talking about, too.
all the way around.
30 pack, dude.
Oh, man, it was all over. And I asked him, he's like, well, I met my wife, you know, and I was like, wait, you're married? He's like, oh, yeah. He said, how'd you meet your wife? And he's like, I met her on datafarmer.com. And I'm like, oh, okay, neat. And then it was really weird because it was like 4 hours away. So he goes and they're doing all this online or whatever. He meets her in person. Come to find out that it's the daughter of his nanny that he had when he was a kid. So she looked just like his nanny, which is a totally weird thing on a whole.
I don't know, man. I just feel like, for some reason, I really like you.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know why, but
why are you
yeah,
this way?
it's so
Yeah.
weird. But yes, it's true that technology has not made things better for us in terms of communication. It doesn't, because again, the overuse and the over dependence upon it, it saddens me. Yeah. And so here's this 20-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
And we spend 45 minutes, have a really in-depth conversation. And I said, not once did you look at your phone. Not once did you break eye contact. I'm so grateful. You know, the faith in humanity restored.
Yeah, totally.
And there are people that, you know, like I said, the pendulum is beginning to swing. And so when I think about your podcast or shows like that long form conversation, I really love, you know, like Neil Brennan's podcast. Have you ever had a chance to listen to Neil Brennan? Okay. His podcast is long form and they talk about everything. And I enjoy that. And I think what happened during COVID, I think you saw a lot of people that were like, I'd really like to watch people interact because I'm not interacting with anybody.
Starved up.
Yeah. So in terms of my story, yes, it's true that I'm grateful for you even hearing a bit of it. But I mean, again, I don't have anything figured out. And the only thing I know is that I don't know much. That's one. Right. But I definitely know that I depend on people more than I ever have for the things that we're doing right now. Emotional support. Yeah. You know, I know that I can't depend on my wife for everything. There are people I can call and I can say, this is a stupid idea I have, and I just need you to agree with me. Yep. And they'll say, okay. I have a friend that I can call and say, I just need a vent for 5 minutes last thing. I have another friend that's like, oh, no, I need an honest opinion here. Is this not good?
Yeah.
Am I losing it here? Because, again, to depend on one person or one entity for everything, you're just asking them to fail.
Yeah, I think it's narrow-minded, too.
You're building a community, and that's great. And when I think about some of your former guests, including Duke, like that he has a sense of humor that I appreciate, and I think it's one of the qualities that I like most about him. but also his humility.
Yeah.
And his humility to know that I blew it. I fell hard. Yeah. I made mistakes. Yes, thank you. It's a breath of fresh air, that, right. As opposed to, when you see somebody and, they got it all together. Look, I'll tell you one thing that I'm dealing with. Maybe I could get some advice here, but I have road rage.
Oh, boy.
Terrible road rage.
What's that like?
It's so, I traced it back to my childhood.
There you go.
So when I was a kid, my dad always had a van, big surprise, knowing what you know now. But he would do flooring and carpet and all that stuff. So we always had a van. And I remember being in the van, and I remember him coming up to a stoplight, and he would like this with the van.
To inch forward a little bit.
Yeah, and like this.
Like use ANSI.
So I was like, wait, what? And I started doing a deep dive, and I went to him and I said, do you remember doing this or whatever? And I said, because I can remember one time of you doing it, and then you following the person off the off ramp, and me being a little kid. And she said, well, yeah. He said, all the time. He's like, I give him a little bump. Oh, it's a little bump? Yeah, just because before airbags, you could do that. You could hit people with your car.
These were foam bumpers. There was,
that's unbelievable. So knowing that, that's pretty traumatizing. Yeah. But as a kid, you don't think about it until you're older. And I swear that sometimes I'll just be having the best day and something will happen and I can feel it that quickly. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. Yeah. I have to slow down here. I have to not go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. I would never last 5 minutes in jail.
I mean, they called them bumpers for a reason.
He would straight up hit people with our car.
Unbelievable.
And so, he admitted it, and he admitted too, his every bit of he would foul people off the Auburn, and get into it with people. So, I mean, I don't want to do it. And I can remember even in the last couple of years where we're so close to being snap. And in that way about no, this isn't, you need to relax too.
Right.
It ain't worth it.
Yeah. So I want to pull. Okay, so I'm listening to your story, and of course, there's more than 5, but there's 5 things that I'm that you've mentioned that I am huge on. I'd like to go back. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So the first thing you talked about was adventure. Right?
Oh yeah.
I think that every life is created to be an adventure, and as soon as you start losing the sense of adventure, you kind of lose purpose, and life gets mundane. Finding that adventure, I don't care what it is. Sure. I mean, this podcast to me is an adventure. I freaking love it. The second thing, you've seen my mentor. I have a guy that I call that you talk he's like a father figure to me. He calls them the monsters under his bed. He's 73. He wakes up in the 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and he starts reeling about all the things. And he's like, what's crazy is none of them exist. And I get through the day, and none of them actually come true. But I look at the worst case scenario, actually, what's realistic, and if I can handle it, I move forward. Yeah. Worst case scenario, you've already seen the worst, like with the kids in the classroom. You've seen the worst.
Yeah.
It doesn't get worse than this. Mm-hmm. The taking time for there's a guy named Dr. Bob at Rotary, and I always liked this guy. Yeah, always liked this guy, but I didn't know why. I was drawn to him, so I said, "Hey man, let's go get some coffee." And I sat down with him. And he was getting ready for okay, what does this kid want from me? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh no, I want to get to know you.
Yes, and hear a story.
Mm-hmm. He said, I've been a Rotary for 40-something years, I think. And he said, no one's ever asked me for coffee just to talk. And I'm like, no, I just want to say hi. Yeah. And that's a big, I tell guys that work with me or that on the team, right, dude, have a cup of coffee with if you see somebody that is interesting, ask them for, there's always time. You'll never know.
Yeah, you never know. And I think that to your point that just to tag onto it, I think that we sometimes don't realize just how much that we have in common. Whether it's what we have in common is we both have road rage. We
both love the Indigo Sisters or whatever. Indigo Girls, I'm sorry.
No, they're still there. They're still going. But again, I think that yes, it's true that sometimes having the time and energy and the attention to give to another person, even if it's for a half hour, that's just huge. And never, and I mean ever, underestimate the power of a small gesture. Ever. Yeah. A small gesture, a kind gesture, a whatever, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what that meant to me. It's wait, what are you talking about?
Just saying someone's name, calling them by their name.
It's funny but not funny that there are people. There's an older woman that I'm friends with that her daughter passed away from cancer a number of years ago, and I still write her mom like once every couple months. I'll send her a card or a letter or something. But I mean, I realize that that it's more a reminder that I can send that to her. I can't send that to my mom, but I can send it to her. Yeah. And she can open that up one day and at her mailbox and be like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then that's it. It costs me nothing, 50 cents for a stamp. But I definitely think that it's small gestures, it's kind gestures. That's really what's going to make us through any bit of what this is. Yeah. Like this is of like this time of our everything. It seems a little crazy. And I definitely, as I said from the beginning of this conversation, what you go looking for is what you're going to find.
Absolutely.
So I want to tell one tiny little story that's left because it's all about mentality. And this is exactly like a real tool to use if you want to use it.
Absolutely.
So at the time I was real negative. I mean, everything was just, this is crap, that's crap, you're in that. I don't like you. No, definitely don't like you. It was really starting to overcome everything, every part of my life. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go down to New West Fest. You remember New West Fest? Mm-hmm. Big concert downtown Fort Collins. Oh, yeah. Huge deal.
I'm from Texas too, so I'm like,
yeah, sure. No, it was a big deal. They had everybody from Steve Miller Band to Blondie to all these crazy big things. It was a huge, there's like 75,000 people go down there.
It's a big deal.
It's the worst place for somebody that's a negative thinker because there's more examples than you can.
A lot of food for you.
There's everything everywhere, right?
Agree with you, Look
at that guy, right?
Yeah.
What a loser.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Look at that, dude. Put a shirt on.
This sounds all too familiar.
So here's what I did. I said I'm going to do an experiment. So I went and to go to my change drawer and I grabbed this big, huge thing of change, nickels and dimes, pennies, quarters, and all. And I'm talking like a big handful. I'm going to put it in my pocket. And I was like, so for every negative or like criticism that I'm going to make, I'm going to take a coin from this pocket and put it into this pocket. It took me 20 minutes to take all these coins from this side to this side. And I realized, oh my God, that's all my thinking. It's encompassing. Cool. So I said, here's what I'm going to do instead. I was like, now I'm going to take everything from this pocket and put it in this pocket. Not that things are all positive and rosy, just anything that's positive. Like, oh, look, somebody opened the door for me.
You can appreciate that.
Yeah. There's a parking space. There's whatever. It took me 2.5 hours to get those same amount of coins back because my brain was wired like that anymore. It was so focused in on, those other negative thoughts that it's like, oh my gosh, you change your mindset, you change everything.
Right.
And so again, I still struggle, but like with road rage or something like that, I definitely know it is like recognize, just like you asked me before about, oh, that's fear. Recognize that it's there. You could freak out right now, or you could do something different.
Yeah. And there's so much power in that too. And just like that, it so quick. Right?
No.
Just a small 30-second conversation with yourself,
Keep 30 seconds. I only need like 3 seconds.
Well,
second.
I'm at the beginning.
No, the 1 second is enough time for me to go, don't do that.
Yeah.
No, let that go.
Yeah.
And this, I got one piece of advice. A guy told me, he's like, look, ask yourself, especially road rage, will it matter in 5 minutes from now?
Yeah.
It won't. 99% of things are not going to matter. And that's tough too, because I ride a motorcycle and a car. So on the motorcycle, it's like,
yeah, you definitely got to be careful.
It's really careful. And so it's all tools that I'm using to try and be better. But again, as I said 4 times, I'm a work in progress. And if people don't get that from watching this, I would hope that they would. But to know that to know that you don't know is huge.
Yeah.
And so,
I agree with you completely, man. And that's just when you say to the universe or God or whatever, like, I'm open. I don't know. All of a sudden everything just opens up, and it's opportunities and the world's more colorful and,
absolutely.
Just,
well, your perspective is to me is a breath of fresh air. Absolutely. And I definitely think that when you're around negative people or you're people that are just suck. There's a great vampire show called What We Do in the Shadows, and there's like an energy vampire that's in there, and he just sucks the life out of everything. Man, and you've got people like that in your life, and you don't. I don't have to be here. Right? Just having this conversation, or like when somebody starts to shout in or chime in with whether they're talking about politics or they're talking about their neighbor, their HOA, or whatever. Like, this is the question that I want to leave everybody of our listeners with. And it's not a question at all, it's a statement. And the statement is that nobody wants to hear you bitch. You don't even want to hear you bitch. And that's the reality of it all. Because when you do, you're like, how is this helping? It's not. So if you need to wonder, you can ask yourself, geez, I wonder if anybody wants to just hear me. Let me answer. No. That's the answer to the
resounding
question.
no.
Yeah, it's a resounding no. Yes, absolutely. And again, I'm guilty of it. And when I'm in that spot, I know that I can go to somebody and say, I need 5 minutes. And I know and then it's out. And then I can go about my day. But again, there are plenty of people that they just like to
be negative,
like to complain, like to find out what's wrong with the world and how everybody in it's out to get them. And I don't look at it like that.
man. So this next segment is
Sure.
kind of like a closeout segment. Do you have
go
anything
ahead.
before I?
No.
Is
We're
there
good.
anything?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
It's really great because I think that you've just done the second part of this already.
I don't even know what the question is.
But
This is the cognitive test?
yeah,
exactly.
So it's the thing that we do that
Sure.
the last guest came in and they left a question for you to ask.
Okay, I love it.
And so
All
you're
right.
going to get a chance to
I get to answer
you get to
and-
read
and one-
that
give
question.
the next person a question.
Okay.
Now this one might not apply to you specifically, but apply it to you yourself the best that you
the best
can.
way you can. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so let's hear
Okay.
it.
Well, what's one habit you've changed now on your journey, and how has it affected your lifestyle? Well, that's a great. I appreciate Amber's your question. And the habit that I've changed is finding the right person to have the right conversation with. As in, not every, as I said before, that habit of well, I could expect you to listen because you're my spouse or you're my boss. That's not true. Finding the right person to have that conversation with has affected every bit of my lifestyle. And again, it's allowed me to celebrate sometimes I need to celebrate, be challenged in a moment that I need to be, that's not okay you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's a wrong thing to do. And being okay with being told that. That's definitely a habit that has changed for me.
That's amazing, man. That's such a true statement.
Well,
I'm kind of working through that in my own life, and it's extremely challenging.
There's just so much freedom in the ability to have somebody to say, "Hey, can I just let the goats out for a minute?"
Well, it's funny that the goats out is one way to put it. Being ridiculously stupid is another one of the things that I'll do. I can tell you who it is. It's my buddy Scott. I'll call him up and I'm like, I think this is funny. And he's like, well, what is it? And he's like, I said, well, I was just wondering, why is it that Texas is the only state that gets its own toast? And he's like, that's pretty funny. I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, as a Texan, I'd like to address that.
And by the way, do you know how you can tell somebody's from Texas?
They'll tell you.
They'll tell you about it in the first 30 seconds that you meet them. I told you that too. That was joke.
100%, man.
Yeah,
I'm proud of that. Okay, I'm proud to be a Texan. I'm not even want to be ashamed of that.
Well, but again, in that example of the right person, the right conversation, and I do think that expectation sometimes on certain people is just too much, and they can't handle it. And my dad, again, another great quote is, take my advice because I'm not using it. He says that all the time.
It's against your marriage too. I got a key on it because there was a moment when I realized not all of my problems is my wife uniquely available.
Totally.
Or
Yes.
I had to learn dude, she's not the sounding board for everything.
Totally,
and there are other men in my life that I'm like, hey dude, I did something stupid today or I need your advice on something.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. This guy's got a little experience. My wife was like, what do you want from dinner? Can we just not talk? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it absolutely. And again, I love my wife and I'm grateful for her every day, but there are certain things that she's not going to get it.
Right.
And whether it's the things that she's not going to get is or I'd say this is a great example of kung fu movies from the 70s.
Right.
I could watch one every day. And she's like, again, with the Bruce Lee. What is the deal
with the Bruce Lee?
Really, Nathan? Enter the Dragon for the 15th time?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but he does this part.
How do you not appreciate this moment? Yeah.
But again, of finding a space for her to be her as well. Yes. I think that, as my son is already out of the house, he's doing his own thing, that when you get to that point, and maybe you will, do you have kids?
I have 3 boys, yes.
Okay, when those kids get to the point where they're doing their own thing, it's going to be you and her. And then it's going to be well, what are we going to talk about now? What are we going to do now that we have each other and we're not worried about
Dude, I've heard that so much.
baseball games and soccer games, whatever it is. And so when that point comes, then it's a moment about like, oh, so this is the person that maybe you were all along, but you took on that role in motherhood and you owned it. Yeah. But guess what? You still love live music. Yeah. You still love, going to travel. You still love all these things that you're like, was that just dormant while you were a mother? No, they were all still there, but she finally now has the time to do those things and be those things. And it's pretty cool to watch. And so like my wife and I are at a place now where we're doing much more travel. We're having a lot more fun. We're seeing things and doing things that were like, they were on the table before, but not in the way that they are now. That we're like, oh no, we're definitely going to go to Ireland for Halloween, which is the best place in the world to celebrate Halloween. By the way, you know that. Well, next to New Orleans, but we've already done that.
Fair enough.
Twice. So, yeah.
Well, man, I just got to say, and thank you so much for coming.
Well, do you want me to tell you what my question is for
so
this?
So actually, we don't.
We don't.
Just want you to write it down off air.
It's going to be a surprise to the next guy. But you just shared so much. It's the topic of conversation was a little bit different than what we typically have, and it is a breath of fresh air to listen to just some wisdom from an adventurer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying. It's a really kind thing to say. And I mean, I just didn't want to come on this podcast and talk about, drugs and alcohol and sobriety and all those things, because that's all been part of my journey. Yeah. But it's also made me who I am. That's the reason I even agreed to come, because without that part of my journey, I wouldn't have even got this far.
And your massive paycheck that we're going to pay you.
Wait, did you include any Indigo Girls tickets?
Yeah, I'm sure we can.
They're playing at Mission Ballroom. Come up in another month.
Yeah, right.
Really?
We should do.
I feel like we should go to that.
What we should do is we should get.
Now you're going to do Closer to Fine on the out music.
We need to get Duke and Sober AF to put a booth up.
Dude, there we go. Let's do it.
Oh,
that's a genius idea, dude.
They do have a booth at Mission Ball.
Yeah, that's why I thought of him.
He invited us down to
no, I'm definitely going.
Wilson Jr.
I'm definitely going. I didn't have a ticket before, but now
you got two tickets.
We'll call Duke and we'll get it all set up.
And a pocket full of Narcan.
Why not? Hand them out.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that problem, I don't think, with that crowd. But here's what I want to say about one last Indigo Girl story in 2 minutes or less.
Yes, sir.
So I'm at Shepherd's. The place is called Shepherd's Bush in London. It's a big concert venue. And so I'm at the concert, and it's packed, and it's 99% women. And so then there's me, and I'm front row because I'm a big fan. I just told you that. And I turn to this woman standing next to me, and I'm like, hey, you're a fan. That's cool. And she's like, oh, I'm from the States. And I'm like, no way. And it's like, what state are you from? She's like, oh, I'm from Illinois. I'm like, no way. And it's like, what town are you from? And she's like, oh, it's a small town. You never heard of it before. And she's like, it's from the Quad Cities. And there's 4 Quad Cities, and I'm in one of them, Moline. And she's like, oh, I'm from one of the Quad Cities, Moline. And she's like, oh yeah, wait, you're from Moline? Wait, what? So you graduated Moline High School? He's like, what year did you graduate? I was like, oh, no way. I said, wait, is your brother Kevin? And then she's like, oh yeah. I said, not only have I been to your house, I've been in your room. I was like, how weird is there's 2,000 people here. One person standing next to me from my hometown. This is the strangest coincidence.
It just goes back to being like willing to just talk to somebody you never know. We're all drawn together.
Yeah.
I believe I'm wholeheartedly. As a salesman, I'm always trying to look for like, why are we together?
Yeah, sure.
It's not because of a roof. Right. Why are we together? And keying in on that, and you make a friend.
Well, and again, to your Duke example, there's somebody who truly in the world that I spent in alcohol and drug abuse treatment was somebody that just made me feel like I can be as honest as I can, and he is. And that he allowed me to be much more in that space too.
Yeah.
And so he also, and I'll say this about Duke, and he knows I've said it to his face, he also is somebody who truly does know how to have fun. Yeah. Whether it's sober or clean and those things that go with it, he's not afraid to have fun. And yeah, it's a great guy. I appreciate you letting me come by.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
You could edit this down like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, perfect.
To you guys, the listener, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Shattered Darkness. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. And reach out if you guys have any questions or you need anything.
Or you want to come on. If you want to come on.
Yeah, for real. So, cool shit coming. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.